Hey everyone, welcome back to Patriot Ridge Farm. So I'm going to talk about something today that just irritates me to no end. The state of West Virginia, our foster care system, and the reason I'm bringing this up, this recently come up in the news, and our current legislative session is trying to address some issues that's been just plagued our system for years upon years. So at any given time, there are about 6,000 kids in the foster system in West Virginia. Now, these kids, no fault of their own. They come from bad homes. They come from homes where rampant drug abuse is going on, neglect, abuse, kids that have behavioral problems, and mostly because of the environment that they're being brought up in. And it's difficult to call these parents or mom and dad, we'll just say the breeding pairs, that produce these kids, and these kids are failing from the beginning. They have no chance. And our foster system has been just absolutely wrecked with problems for the last probably more than a decade and a half, if not longer. HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, under the Child Protective Services, woefully inadequate. And I'm not making this video to attack anybody. Here's the problem now. So there's not enough foster homes in the state of West Virginia. There's not enough people to take in the kids. I think they're spending right now $2.1 million a year just on temporary emergency housing for these kids, which includes hotel rooms and a child protective services worker that has to stay with that child 24/7, and the overtime that it's costing them for that. So this is what we've come down to, is we're housing children in freaking hotels, and somebody have to stay with them at all times, of course. Problem is you've got anywhere from toddlers to teenagers, and a lot of these kids have behavioral problems and everything like that to begin with. So keeping all of those mingled together is a risk in and of itself. So I seen this, and there's been something on my heart for several years now, and I always thought that there's a way to address this issue. Now, I know West Virginia is looking at budget constraints right now, budgetary problems. I don't have access to all of the monies, all of the, the budget or anything like that. Just basic little stuff I can find on a simple internet search. But here's something that they need to consider. So the state of West Virginia will not count just the amount of buildings that the state owns. But let's look at land in state forests, state parks, things like that. So you're looking at 164,000 acres that the state of West Virginia owns. Combine that with what the federal government owns and national forests and everything, you're looking at 15.5 million acres. So land should not be an issue. And I'll just kind of gloss over what I think would be an appropriate step here, what I think would work better. You can't find foster homes for these kids. God knows that most foster homes aren't probably the best or much better than what the environment that they came from. And God bless people who take in foster kids for the right reasons, but there are those few out there that we just had 2 people in the southern part of West Virginia who were just convicted of terrible things for kids that they had adopted and everything through the foster system. And thank God they got the maximum penalty. They'll never see the light of day again outside of prison walls. But think about this. And if you guys know, if you're from West Virginia and you know any West Virginia legislators, I don't. I personally don't know any of them. And I'm not going to get on an email campaign, because I tell you what, I addressed an issue a couple years ago with 2 delegates from my area, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican, and I got a lot of interest and wanted a meeting with me, and then never followed through, never returned emails, never returned phone calls. And then the other one, I got excuses about the fact that their party wasn't in control, and they couldn't do anything because their party wasn't the deciding factor in the whole issue. So yeah, I was let down on that. And well, it wasn't me that was let down, it was the kids that were let down. So let's think about something. These kids, you're talking anywhere from newborns all the way up to 17 years old. They're coming from a terrible home environment, neglect, abuse, drug abuse, Most of these kids are malnourished. They look forward to going to school just to get a meal, and that's not a stretch. That's not a stretch at all. We know that. Their clothing is inadequate. They don't have proper winter clothes or anything like that. It's terrible. It really is. And I hate to say that about my own state, but it's the absolute truth. So here's a way, and like I said, I'm just going to kind of gloss over this. Here's a way we can start addressing this issue. We can give these kids a safe environment. We can get these kids an advantage from the start and let them become productive, successful people in our society, rather than just facing an onslaught of failure, and ended up being dependent on a system for pretty much their entire lives. So you think about this. So take buildings, take, state parks, state forests or stuff like that, where they've already got infrastructure in place. You build a facility. Now, one facility could cover 5 to 6 counties. Right now in West Virginia, there's 156 kids in emergency shelters, emergency housing, typically hotel rooms. And these are usually the kids who have the behavioral problems, neurobehavioral problems and things like that, which can be corrected. Don't tell me it can't be. I know for a fact a lot of this stuff, with the right treatment, with the right therapy, with the right people, with the right influences, these behaviors can be corrected and reversed. So let's build facilities. I don't know how many we could look at. You've got almost 6,000 kids in foster care. So without trying to do math in public here on a video inside my head, let's just say we build facilities, one for every 6 counties, or utilize existing facilities in those regions. And you staff these facilities. The teachers in the state of West Virginia are employed by the state. Let's get certified teachers in these facilities. Let's have 1 or 2 specific facilities for the ones who have the behavioral issues. Let's hire veterans. Let's get people. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at me like I'm crazy on this. But if you put a call out and say we want former drill instructors, don't think of it like that. I'm not talking about drill instructors in your face screaming like they do to recruits. I'm talking about people who have way more experience in leadership, in motivation, in good positive reinforcement, good behavior, good discipline. My drill sergeants, every drill sergeant I ever had while I was in the military, while some people would say, oh my God, he's mean, he's terrible, were nothing but a positive influence. Nothing but a positive influence. These folks have the training and they have the skills that are needed to be a great mentor for these kids. So you put it out there. We want former drill instructors, former drill sergeants, former military leaders. These people they can create a structured environment. They can instill discipline, motivation in these kids. So you get these facilities. It's windy out here today. I apologize. So you build these facilities, or you utilize facilities that you currently have outside of city limits. We don't want these facilities in a town or in a city. They're already coming from a bad environment in their home. We don't want to put them in an environment where you got a bunch of backpackers, a bunch of meth heads, and I'm just going to use that language because that's just the truth, and a lot of crime. So you find these rural areas. You get and partner with the West Virginia Department of Agriculture. You partner with the USDA and the Natural Resources Commission, or NRCS. You put a greenhouse at each one of these facilities. You put a garden at each one of these facilities. You bring on some lambs, some sheep, some goats, some chickens. You have structured exercise for these kids. You have a good, healthy diet for these kids. Get them away from the crap that they're having to survive on, because that's basically, let's just face it, that's what they're relying on, is whatever mommy or daddy's food stamp card is providing them, and typically it's Mountain Dew, chips, and God knows what else. So you get them a great diet. Diet in and of itself has been proven to reverse and eliminate a lot of these behavioral problems with these kids. Absolutely unquestionable, it has been proven. So now you've got them in an environment where they have certified, West Virginia certified teachers that are teaching them. They don't leave that school. They stay right there. They stay at this facility. They get their schooling at this facility. They get structured exercise. You get them outdoors. You get these kids learning how to plant and grow vegetables and fruits. You have a little orchard for them. You have chickens where they can collect eggs and take care and feed and water chickens. Give these kids some responsibilities. That's how you learn. When you have responsibilities and you have to fulfill those responsibilities, that's how these kids are going to learn. It's going to instill self-confidence. It's going to build self-esteem. You go out, you do your chores, you come back, you've done your chores. Great job. Great job. And I don't mean you let these kids run free, feral all over the place, but you let them be children. Now, some folks may look at this as, oh, it's institutionalization. It's not. It's absolutely not. And then you bring in, from the vocational technical centers, you bring in, let's say, shop teachers. Teach these kids how to use a tape measure, how to cut a board, how to build something. You get real life skills instilled in these kids. You have former military personnel who were leaders, drill instructors, drill sergeants, who can teach and run exercise programs for these kids. They can help instill discipline, help motivate these kids, give these kids a structured environment, and give them a chance at life. Because as it stands right now, they have no chance. They have no chance. They have come from a failed home. They are going into a failed system. They are not getting the care that they need. They are not getting the nutrition. They may be getting the calories, but they're not getting the nutrition that they need. And we definitely don't need to be medicating kids with every antidepressant, anti-anxiety, or stimulant out there whose side effects include suicidal, homicidal ideations, emotional disturbance, or behavioral issues. So let's kind of recap this a little bit. Let's build or utilize facilities where we can house these kids. You can have a structured education system in place in that school or at that facility. You can have a structured exercise program. These kids go out into nature. They can go outside. They have a playground. They can play, burn off that energy instead of sitting in a desk for 8 hours a day. They have prior military leaders who can teach them all kinds of good stuff. Be nothing but a positive influence on them. Build their self-esteem, improve their physical health. You get a nutrition program in place. Now you've got a greenhouse. Now you've got a garden. Now you've got fresh chicken eggs here. You've got lambs. You've got goats that they can interact with and take care of. They can get in that greenhouse. They can plant. They can grow vegetables. They can harvest vegetables and eat the vegetables and stuff that they're growing there. They can learn about the types of trees. They can climb trees. They can learn about the orchard and the fruits that they can grow. Now, I know this seems like an agricultural-based type of solution here, but that is, you put kids in nature. So you do like, was it like Norway, Scandinavia, and that part of the world where they have the forest schools where the kids are out in the woods, they play, they do everything like that. Hey, they do better on their test scores than our kids do. Utilize a Montessori type approach in their education. Let them be creative. Let them discover what they're capable of rather than memorization. Let them learn new things. And honestly, who cares if they're there until they're 18 years old? They're in a safe, structured environment. They're being fed optimal nutrition. They're having positive influence from former military leaders who knows how to build men and women. They know how to build men and women. They know how to instill discipline. They know how to motivate people. They can provide a safe, structured environment. And yes, it's going to cost some money. It's absolutely going to cost some money. But at least we're not wasting time and wasting money and not giving these kids a foothold for their futures. A lot of the times, these kids are returned back to the same terrible home environment that they were previously taken out of. And when that happens, any potential positive thing that happened while they were outside of that home environment gets completely wiped clean when they go back to that home environment. Now, I know, our judicial system probably needs a complete and total overhaul when it comes to this kind of stuff, especially parental rights. But I personally know some people who have foster children. God bless them. I can't do it because I couldn't give up one of these kids. I couldn't do it. I couldn't take a kid into my home to care for and love them and have the system, which is ridiculous. When I tell you ridiculous, a friend of mine has 5 foster children, all siblings, and what he has to go through to provide or to keep these kids, and he's adopted, I think, 4 of the 5 so far, and he's waiting to adopt the 5th one. Child Protective Services is, I can't even begin to describe the amount of stupidity that makes no sense. They've been to their homes. They know that they're a good home environment. Both mom and dad in the foster home are licensed professionals. They have a great home. They have a great home environment. They have a good church community. And what they have to go through is just ridiculous to provide these kids with a safe, loving home where they can flourish. And that's the problem. We need a significant overhaul of our Child Protective Services, of our foster system. And, you know, I've got this laid out. Man, I've got it laid out. I'm not going to sit here and try to do all of it on a phone. I'm just kind of glossing over this. But you put these kids in an environment where they can thrive, and guess what you're going to have? At 18 years old, you're going to have kids going to college. You're going to have kids going to trade schools with an already excellent base knowledge. They're going to be motivated. They're going to be disciplined. They're already going to have a lot of good skills. They're going to be healthy, and they're going to carry that with them for the rest of their lives. They have community. They have safety. And they don't have to worry about where their next meal's coming from. There's a lot more to this, and we can go into a lot of depth into this. And like I said, I don't know the budget issues. I don't even know what the cost breakdown of this would be. But I'm going to tell you, if you cannot put a price on a child's future, especially when you've got 6,000 plus or minus at any given time in a foster system. So, West Virginia legislatures, I would love to have an audience with you. I would love to have an audience with you. I don't want to hear anything about wraparound services. I don't want to hear anything about party lines. I don't care who you're affiliated with or who you're beholden to. These are our children. Our children don't know Democrat from Republican. They're kids. They need an opportunity and they need a chance to grow and thrive in a safe, structured environment and be healthy. Not have to worry about where their next meal's coming from, not having to worry whether mommy or daddy or the next boyfriend who comes in the door is going to be overdosed on the floor, or where these kids are going to get into their drugs. It happens all the time. We know that. They're not going to have to worry about being beat or abused in any way whatsoever. This can be done. There is no question this can be done. If you're willing, reach out to me. We will sit down and I can go over everything. You can provide your input and help me get the cost breakdown of a lot of this kind of stuff, and we can work on a better system for our kids. Because it's gone too far. It's gone far enough. I don't have to be an elected official. I can be a practical, very, very practical person who's a registered nurse with 35 years in healthcare, who's a daddy, who's a farmer, who juggles all of life every day. We can work through this and we can make this work. But you tell me you're going to put a price on our kids and you're not the person I want to talk to. Let's get this taken care of. Thank you folks for your time. Please, if you know any West Virginia legislatures, tag them in this video. Get and stay prepared. Stay free. God bless y'all.